If you are selling on Amazon in the UK or you are expanding your e-commerce business, understanding VAT rules is crucial to avoid costly mistakes. In this video, you will get a clear overview of UK VAT requirements. You will learn how to navigate VAT registration and find out how to stay compliant when fulfilling orders from both inside and outside the UK. If you need help with all of this, reach out to SimplyVAT. You will find the link in the description below.
Hello, Alex. I'm really happy to have you back here on Orange Click YouTube channel to talk about VAT, and more specifically, today's topic is around UK VAT requirements and everything sellers need to know about it. But before we dive into the topic, could you first introduce yourself and also let us know how SimplyVAT helps Amazon sellers?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me back on the channel. I'm super excited to be back. And yeah, so my name is Alex Wyatt. I head up the commercial team at SimplyVAT. SimplyVAT is really there to help e-commerce retailers with their international VAT compliance. So that includes the VAT registrations, the ongoing returns, and of course, all the education that sellers might need in order to run their shops cross-border, whether that's on Amazon or beyond.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because also a lot of Amazon sellers are expanding their sales outside of Amazon. So it's definitely relevant for all e-commerce sellers who are watching this right now. And as I said before, today's focus will be on UK specifically. So I know you put together a slide deck for us as well to run us through kind of the main details sellers need to know. So hopefully we'll cover most of the questions sellers have in their head. But if not, then if you're watching this video, feel free to leave your questions as comments below the video so we can ask Alex to come back and answer those as well. But go ahead, Alex, share your screen and we're eager to learn from you.
As we mentioned, today we're talking about selling on Amazon in the UK. So let's get started. So I really wanted to start off with the basics as normal. So what is VAT? If you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen my videos before, VAT stands for value added tax. It's a goods and services tax that's used to collect revenue for governments at every step of the supply chain. But ultimately, it's there to be paid by the end consumers of the product. If you are a VAT registered business in the UK or the EU or wherever you're trading, it's not supposed to be a burden to you. So you should be able to reclaim the import VAT or the purchase VAT on your VAT return. So keep that in mind as you start exploring this new market, that you should be able to reclaim that import VAT or any extra sales taxes that you're paying, and hopefully it's not too much of a burden to you. So if you are a non-UK seller, there's typically no thresholds to exceed once you start selling in the UK. I always get asked, Alex, I'm based in the US and I want to start selling on Amazon in the UK. I've heard about an £85,000 threshold, so I don't need to get registered, right? And the answer is no. That £85,000 threshold is only applicable to UK established businesses. So in this case, if you're based in the US or anywhere else other than the UK, this £85,000 threshold does not apply to you. So you're going to need a VAT registration in the UK under the following circumstances. So first off, if you are dispatching goods from a UK fulfillment center, so if you're holding your goods in an Amazon FBA warehouse or a 3PL or maybe your own warehouse, you are going to need a UK VAT registration. The second time you would need one is if you are selling on your own website to customers in the UK from a fulfillment center outside of the UK, and the consignment value or the average order value is less than £135. So in those instances, you'll also need a VAT registration. There's no threshold to exceed, and you'll need a VAT registration from the very first transaction on your own website to a UK customer. So that's a big one to know there, because sometimes that trips people up, not knowing that they need that VAT registration right from the very first transaction. And the final one is if you're selling to UK customers from outside the UK with a consignment value of greater than £135 in value, and you want to be the importer of record. So this one's a unique one. It's really for these larger consignment values. And typically you can choose who is going to be the importer. And that means who's going to pay the import duties and taxes as the goods clear through customs. Now, a lot of the time, Amazon or the marketplaces that you're trading on really want the seller to be the importer of record to make sure that the end customer experience is the best it can be, so that they get no nasty surprises as the goods clear through customs. So keep that in mind if you are selling on a marketplace and you have large value items that you're importing. You may need to get this VAT registration, or you may want to get this VAT registration to help clear those goods through customs and give your customers the best experience. So we're going to talk a little bit more about marketplace VAT rules in the UK. So the marketplaces in the UK are going to take on the responsibility for sellers, specifically non-UK sellers or non-UK based entities that are selling on Amazon in most cases. So the specific cases where they're going to take on that responsibility is one, if the goods are dispatched from within the UK and they are going to a private individual, so they're going B2C on Amazon. In that case, Amazon is going to collect and remit the taxes for you. If the goods are going to be dispatched from outside the UK and the consignment value is less than £135, as I mentioned in the previous slide, if you're selling on your own website, that would trigger a VAT registration. But on a marketplace, the marketplace is actually going to be responsible to collect and remit those taxes for you. So in those cases, you're going to be using the marketplace's import numbers to allow those goods going through customs and going to the end customer. Where the seller becomes responsible for VAT is when the sale is made to a UK VAT registered business. The seller is going to be responsible to declare that, as well as if the goods are dispatched from outside the UK with a consignment or an order value greater than £135. And as I mentioned, maybe the marketplace in their rules for sellers, they want you to be the importer of record as the seller for these high value goods to make the customer experience really great. And therefore, the seller is going to be responsible to collect that VAT and pay that to HMRC. Now, with all this being said, even though the marketplace may be collecting the VAT on your behalf in most of these cases, that does not mean that as a seller selling in the UK that you do not have an obligation to get a VAT registration. So if you are selling as a non-UK seller into the UK and Amazon is taking on the responsibility for your sales, there's a few things that you're going to have to know. So number one is that if you're holding goods in the UK, regardless of if you're just selling on Amazon, you'll need that VAT registration right away. The second thing is that you need to make sure that you're collecting VAT you're thinking about VAT in your product prices. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So we're just going to look at the difference again, just to really hammer it home in terms of fulfilling from inside the UK or fulfilling from outside the UK and the differences. So when you're fulfilling from inside the UK, as I mentioned, you're going to charge VAT on your products. So this is making sure that you're including the VAT in your product prices. Now, I've done another video with Orange Click specifically on setting VAT in your prices and how to manage that best. So feel free to make sure you check out that video if you need some help with adding in VAT into your products. Next, Amazon is going to collect and remit your VAT on your sales and pay this to HMRC. So keep this in mind. When I say collect and remit, they're going to essentially take the percentage of VAT. So let's say the standard rate of VAT in the UK, which would be 20%. They'll take that off of the product price that they've collected at checkout for you. And they're going to then pay that to HMRC. So essentially what you get back in your seller account is going to be exclusive of their commissions and the VAT. Okay? Finally, what you are going to have to do as a seller is file a quarterly VAT return outlining all sales. Now, some sales are going to be exempt of VAT, of course, if they're going to a marketplace, or maybe you made any B2B transactions or sales on your own website. All of those sales need to be recorded on your UK VAT return. When we look at fulfilling from outside the UK, as I mentioned, that consignment value or your order value is going to really be the important number here. So if you're selling consignments less than £135, Amazon is going to collect the VAT in the same way as if you were fulfilling from inside the in the UK, and then make that payment over to HMRC. The difference here is that you do not require a UK VAT registration. So if you're filling from outside the UK and all those consignments are less than £135, there's no VAT obligation for you. And you can use Amazon's numbers to clear and pay the taxes. As I mentioned, if the goods are greater than £135, typically Amazon prefers the seller to become the importer of record. And what you'll do here is pay the import duties and taxes, and you'll need to charge VAT on the goods at the point of sale and pay that over to HMRC as well. So let's talk about VAT rates in the UK. So in the UK, we have 3 different rates. We have the standard rate at 20%, the reduced rate at 5%, and the zero rate at obviously 0%. So there's a few different products. Depending on your product, you're going to charge different VAT rates. For the most part, most products are going to be standard rated in the UK. Now, when it comes to reduced rates, we're looking at children's car seats in some cases as well. And zero rates, we have safety gear, children's clothing, books. So they're all kind of unique in that case. Now, I really like to highlight, we get people coming to us saying, oh, my food product is actually zero rated. And it's always best to get this checked, or maybe your supplements, or you're thinking that they're zero rated. Make sure you're getting this checked and classified either with HMRC or with a tax agent. And the reason for this is if you're assuming that the products are zero rated or reduced rated, and HMRC actually classifies them as a standard rated product and you get audited, you're going to be owing a lot in backdated taxes. And it's so nuanced too with these VAT rates. Something like a gingerbread without eyes or icing on it is considered a zero rate. But as soon as you add the icing in there, it's standard rated. So it's so nuanced that you really should make sure that you're getting that checked out so that you aren't using the wrong VAT rates on your products. So when we look at importing into the UK, you're always going to want to make sure that you have a UK EORI number. EORI is a long word. Economic Operator Registration Identification Number. We shorten it down to EORI, but this number identifies the importer of the goods and allows you to reclaim any of that import VAT that's paid. In the UK, they have brought out postponed VAT accounting to avoid actually having to pay import VAT as you clear through customs. So essentially what this means is instead of paying import VAT and then in 3 months' time reclaiming it on your VAT return, offsetting it against your sales VAT, with the postponed VAT accounting, it essentially allows you to postpone paying the VAT. And it's going to be kind of like an accounting practice where you're putting it on your VAT return as an input and output. So it cancels itself out on the VAT return, and you don't have any cash flow implications. So there is a huge positive to this, and it is quite easy to use. You just need to speak to your freight forwarder and make sure that they're using a specific box on the import documents to use the postponed VAT accounting. And it's going to be a huge benefit to sellers in the UK. As I mentioned, make sure you're using your EORI number on each of your import documents so that there should be no question who the importer is. So when it comes time to actually filling in the VAT return and making sure that the imports are allocated to yourself, you have that proof and those documents as well. High value consignments coming from outside the UK to customers inside the UK need to be determined the importer of record. So those consignments that are above £135, you can decide, you can make the customer the importer of record. If you're making the customer the importer of record, they're going to be the ones paying the import duties and taxes. So you don't need to use a UK EORI number in these instances. But in the case where you do want to be the importer, that's where you're going to use the EORI number in the customs documentation. Okay, so we're going to talk about the registration process a little bit. So the registration process can take quite a bit of time. It can take up to 14 weeks to process with HMRC, and it's typically because HMRC wants so much evidence and proof of trading before they give out a VAT ID. They don't want to be giving out VAT numbers to businesses who don't need a VAT ID. They've seen a lot of fraud over the years, and therefore they are really scrutinizing and making sure that each seller has an obligation to actually have a VAT registration number. So when you are applying to HMRC, they're going to want to see proof of trading. So this could be fulfillment contracts. Maybe you're using Amazon or 3PL. They'll want to see some sort of signed fulfillment contract or letter of intent to use the fulfillment center. Screenshots of storefronts or within your Amazon accounts, and or proof of previous sales made to a UK customer. So this could be a case of if you're selling through your own website and you already made a few sales to a UK customers. Sometimes that actually helps you in the long run get your VAT ID through. So you can actually say, hey, I have had some customers but purchase from me, and this is why I want to become compliant and get this number through. When you're going through the UK registration process, make sure you're getting your EORI at the same time. They are linked. So you can get your UK EORI and the UK registration so that they're linked and you have both ticked off in one go. So that's nice and simple for you as well. But keep in mind that time frame. So if you're looking and you've got all your products ready, there's nothing worse than having to sit there because Amazon won't let you start trading until you put your UK VAT number in place. So if you're waiting multiple weeks for this, you could be losing some money here and on your sales. So it's really important to consider these time frames in all of your preparation and planning so that, you have enough time to get that VAT registration number in and start importing your goods and start trading as soon as you have it in place. Now, once you're registered, you're going to have to continue to file ongoing. So in the UK, the standard filing frequency is quarterly. There is an option for annual, the annual accounting scheme, but in some cases that doesn't necessarily benefit a lot of businesses because you have to estimate your turnover, and that's never as much as you want it to be accurate. It won't be accurate until the end of the year. So I suggest a quarterly basis, and you're going to want to declare sales made on a marketplace, exempted VAT, and then any sales that are made that are subject to VAT. So this is any of your B2B transactions, any sales made through your own website. All of these are going to be declared on your UK VAT registration. Return. And then we have your reclaim. So anything that we can offset on your VAT returns. So this could be the import VAT. Maybe you didn't use the postponed VAT accounting scheme, or maybe we still need to put it in your VAT return as an input and output. Or if you made any purchases in the UK, maybe you're using a UK manufacturer or supplier, whatever that might be, and you want to offset any of that UK VAT, then we can make sure that that is reclaimed. So let's look at a few case studies here for businesses that are looking to trade in the UK. So first off, we have a US established business, and they're using Amazon FBA in the UK. Now they're selling on both Amazon and their own website and using Amazon's fulfillment centers to fulfill both sets of goods. So for this seller, they're going to be importing their goods into the UK and fulfilling from the UK, and therefore that UK VAT registration is going to be required right from the beginning. So there's no time to wait and delay here. they're going to be wanting to charge VAT in their product prices, both on their own website and on Amazon, so that on their own website, they can file this and remit this to the tax authorities themselves. And from Amazon perspective, Amazon will actually collect this and file this for them. After that, the US business is going to file a quarterly return, and they're going to declare any VAT collected as well as any of their imports, as I mentioned. So this one is quite straightforward. You just need to know who's going to be the owner of the responsible person to collect the VAT and remit that to HMRC. And in this case, it's going to have joint responsibility depending on the sales channel. So now on to case study number 2 here. So we have an Australian-based business, and they are sending goods from Australia direct to customers on Amazon in the UK, and all consignments are £50. Okay, so in this case, the Australian business should include the VAT in their product prices, because Amazon has that responsibility to collect the VAT and remit that to HMRC. However, since the goods are coming from outside the UK and the consignments are less than £135, there's no obligation for this Australian-based company to actually get a UK VAT registration. So in this case, all they have to do is just make sure that they've accounted for the VAT rates in their product prices, and then make sure that if there's any importing requirements that Amazon want them to follow, then they can do that. And otherwise, it should be quite smooth sailing for them, and they can continue to trade without a UK VAT registration, and they don't have to worry about the ongoing filings. And I think that's all I have for the selling in the UK today. So I'm hoping that helps demystify some of the different rules and regulations around the UK. There's obviously always some changes coming up that face sellers. So I'm hoping that helps. But if you do have any specific questions, I'm always here to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex. I think it was such a great overview because you already answered a few of my questions I had in mind, but also the examples you brought in the end were very useful to understand. But I do have a few questions. So it seems like in different cases, it's actually quite clear what sellers need to do in order to comply with the VAT rules. But I wanted to ask what usually happens when sellers or e-commerce business owners fail to file those quarterly reports or VAT returns. Is it possible to fix your mistake if you are late to do that, or how tough it is?
That's a really good question. So yes, in theory, okay, let's talk about if you are UK VAT registered and you're just not filing your returns. So in that case, HMRC will probably be sending out some letters. They may be issuing what they call penalty points. And after a certain amount of points, that can turn into actual fines and penalties. The other thing that may happen as well is that they may estimate or make an assessment of the VAT that they think that you should have collected over that period, that quarter. And they may send you a letter saying you owe this amount, even though that might not actually be your actual sales. So it's something to consider as you're going through, and you want to make sure that you are complying, obviously, but ultimately, hopefully there won't be any penalties. But if you continue to delay, they do have the right to charge penalties and fines for anything, and they typically do that based on the VAT due as well. So it's down to them on how much they want to fine you, but hopefully if you can stay on top of your filings, that's the best thing to do.
Okay, very good information. And one more question regarding working together with the tax agent. So if I start selling on UK and I have the VAT registration, EORI number, and I know I would like to have a help, let's say from a company like SimplyVAT, what does it really mean for me as a seller? Like, do I need to provide any information for you on a monthly basis to make sure you have everything covered, or how does it usually work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for the most part, so we have an API integration with Amazon. So we actually can pull the Amazon transactions on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on how regularly you need to file your VAT returns. So in that case, it makes that kind of data transfer way easier for the seller, so that you don't have to worry about pulling reports on a monthly or quarterly basis. Where it does come to requiring some information is confirming if there are any different VAT rates. So if there's specific products or SKUs that you have, I know that there's a lot of sellers that have multiple different SKUs, and maybe that they've undergone and gone through which ones have different VAT rates. You'll need to provide that sort of information as well. Otherwise, that should be about it. What happens from our perspective is we would then collate the VAT returns and then send them to you for approval along with a payment memo. And then it's your responsibility to make any payments to the tax authorities, of course, by the deadline, so that, there's no extra penalties incurred from there. So ultimately, it does make it a bit simpler, but if you know your own accounting systems and you know how to do it yourself, you can. The main benefits is using a professional tax agency that would be able to handle that for you. If there are any questions or queries or letters that come about that you don't know how to handle, that's where we really come into effect, and we can really be beneficial.
Okay, it sounds really good and also useful for the sellers because they do have a lot of things on their table. So I don't think managing VAT is one of them they would like to, have in their to-do list, even on a monthly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to say we love that, so you don't have to. And I think that really sometimes runs true to home for a lot of sellers because they're like, I don't care about taxes. But for me, I find joy in it. So so it's a bit sad, but that's totally fine. I'll take that on board and look after that for you.
Sounds good. And we will have contacts to SimplyVAT also in the video description below. But could you once more highlight what's the best way to learn more about your services and also get in contact with you if anyone has any further questions?
Yeah, of course. So the best way to do that is to contact here to help@simplyvat.com. And as Lisette said, that there will be some links in the description that you can follow that will lead to us. And you can just say that you heard of us through OrangeClick. I know I've spoken to so many sellers from OrangeClick directly, said that they've listened to these videos, which is great to hear. And I'm glad that they've been helpful. So just feel free to quote OrangeClick, and then we can make sure that we are getting the best videos for you guys as well. And there's one other thing as well that we're going to add in the description, which is a link to the country guide. So we've created some specific country guides that go into detail about UK, Germany, Poland, all the Amazon markets. So if you are interested in that, you can follow the link and then download some guides to have something to take home and read. Maybe put you to sleep, but no, we'll try to keep it lighthearted. Yeah.
No, I think it's a very useful guide, so definitely check it out as Alex just described. And thanks again for helping to bring more clarity in terms of VAT and specifically around UK VAT requirements. So thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
I hope this video will help you to navigate complex VAT requirements more easily. Contact Alex and SimplyVAT team if you need further some help with your VAT registrations, complications, and whatever you need. And they will ensure that you are staying compliant. You'll find the link below in the description. And also, if you enjoy the videos we create, don't forget to click like and subscribe buttons below. And now I recommend you to watch other video where you will learn what individual taxpayer identification number is and why Amazon sellers selling in the US need it. So check this out.